It's time for dinner.
Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong.
From the creative mind of Scott Bertelson, after 4 decades of teaching our impressionable youth,
The dinner bell.
you are invited to enjoy conversational morsels for the mind at Mr. B's dinner party.
Yeah, dinner.
Hello, friend. Once again, it's Mr. B at the microphone. So welcome.
Mr. B's got a table so wide. Pull up a chair, let your worries slide. School days, tales, and a movie or two. He's serving up wisdom with a side of stew. Belly up to the table, my friend. The feast of thought will never end. From travels far to a spiritual climb. Morsels of musing served in rhyme.
And I hope that you will belly up to the table. And I do want to give a shout out to my producer, Troy Thompson, for the lovely, lovely song that he has added to my podcast. It's beautiful, it's original. He wrote the lyrics. He's going to be the next Stevie Nicks. Anyway, I really like it. So thank you, Troy, for the time and the effort that you put into that. And thank you for doing all the work that you do for my podcast. Otherwise, I would not, as I've said many times before, would be able to do this. So today we're going to spend some time with the spiritual journey. I'm going to tell you about my latest trip. I'm going to tell you about my cinematic movies I watched on the cruise ship, as I've done before. And I'm going to talk about some travel pet peeves. So, oh yeah, we can't have a podcast without pet peeves. So let's get going and let's move to the table.
Let's have a seat round the proverbial table
Would you like to say grace?
with a nod to our higher power and Mr. B's spiritual journey.
Loved ones, for my spiritual journey, I'm going to talk a little bit about the art of losing weight. Or, as we say, for me, giving it to my higher power. I've just noticed recently that my body, it seems like no matter how much exercise I'm doing, and believe me, I don't do large amounts, but with the walking that I do, and the balanced diet that I'm choosing to utilize, I'm not losing any weight, and I'm not giving any weight away. And I maybe at age 66, my body says, I'm just done doing that. I'm tired of the roller coaster. I'm not sure what it is, but that doesn't mean I'm going to give up. That doesn't mean I'm going to quit, because my abstinence is the number one priority in my life. And my program is really not about losing weight. My program is about living an enriched, happy life, and through the 12 steps. And then the weight loss is a byproduct of that. It's not primarily why I do this, because if I approach it that way, then I'm going to have terrible failure. So I'd like to share a reading with you, or a number of readings, about what other people have said about weight loss and this disease known as overeating. This person says, before OA, I was an expert on the art of losing weight. I knew how to lose the weight and lose it quickly. Well, I've surely been there myself. Somehow, each time I lost weight, it always found its way back to me. In working a program of recovery in OA, the weight has had to come off much more slowly, and I definitely have determined and been aware of that in the last couple of years. I've experienced delayed gratification. In OA, or that organization, I have to allow time for my emotions and spiritual growth to catch up with the difference in body size. I need to earn my weight loss a day at a time and turn my ever elusive goal weight over to the decision of my higher power. I'm not going to determine what my goal weight is. I'm leaving it to my higher power. For example, I'm going in for physical exam in a month with my family doctor, and already I'm dreading being weighed because I know it's probably, even though I'm adhering to my eating regimen and trying to exercise, I don't think I have lost any more weight. And if my higher power says that I'm okay where I'm at with my weight, then I need to accept that. I truly believe that. I don't have to lose 30, 40 more pounds. I could. And if my higher power decides I can and will do that, then that will happen. But right now, that doesn't seem to be in the works. And I'm okay with that. I don't find that as a reason to give up. Not at all. Absolutely not. My health has improved tremendously, and that unto itself is enough reason to stay on this path. Anyway, as this person goes on to say, through working my program, I'm able to let go of the weight gracefully. And today, letting go of weight is a byproduct of my spiritual growth. I want to underscore that for you, my happy friends. Losing weight is a byproduct of my spiritual growth. That's really most important, spiritual growth. By maintaining conscious contact with a power greater than myself, I'm finally able to feel at peace while abstaining from compulsive eating. That's so important. Feeling at ease, feeling at peace. Must have that. So important. Happy friends, here's another reading that I have about the whole process of losing weight or maintaining abstinence. This person says, when I was first introduced to this program, I was very weight focused. I wanted more than anything to lose my excess weight as quickly as possible. And that seemed to be what most diets profess to say, is that you can lose 25 pounds in one day. Okay, maybe you can, but what's really going to happen, your health is going to suffer, and you're probably 100% not going to keep it off. Whereas with this, it's a very steady, gradual reduction in weight. I've been on this journey nearly 7 years, and it took many, many miles of walking and many, many abstinent meals for me to be at the weight that I am today. I came to meetings to speak to few members. I would lose a few pounds and then leave the program. Years later, when I did become abstinent, I remember how I felt during those times. I had no desire to refrain from compulsively eating. Instead, I wanted to diet. Well, that's the big issue right there. This is not dieting, not at all. And remember, with dieting, there's a word die in there. I did not take the suggestion seriously, and that's what happened to me when I first started this, before I had my relapse. Tradition 3 illustrates the reason for my inability to grasp this program. I wanted the weight loss and the pleasure of it without having to earn it first. Without having to earn it first. You have to earn the ability to lose the weight. Today, when I watch newcomers struggle, I try to show the same compassion and acceptance as those who came before me. That's so important. When I'm talking to my sponsees and sponsee says, oh my goodness, my blood sugar level was way up today because I had a bowl of ice cream last night. Well, there's a way to solve that. Don't eat the ice cream. I know. Easier said than done. I get that. Instant gratification says, I want that bowl of ice cream, or I want that half gallon of ice cream. But instead, it might be important to try to say, I'm going to be much happier without that bowl of ice cream, especially if it is one of your binge foods that you can't say no to. Here's another reading. I've got 2 more I'd like to share today. When I first was in this program, I didn't know what I should eat each day, and that was something that I struggled with too, because there is no prescribed eating plan. And you can get one from a nutritionist or your doctor if you want to. But if that plan includes foods that you consider poison to you, then that's not going to work. I asked other people who were using a food plan what was working for them. One member simply replied, I need to enjoy my food because I'm eating today the way I will be eating for the rest of my life. It won't change someday. That's exactly right. When I walked away from pizza, I knew that I was walking away from it forever. I'm not coming back to it. Or the ice cream, I'm not coming back to it. Or bread. I try to very, 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 very rarely eat bread. I try to walk away from it. I found, though, through years of moderate eating 1 day at a time, that the weight did come off, without any hint of my so-called dieting behavior. I started to focus on the events of my life, which turned out to be much more interesting than watching my weight go up and down. Take your interest off the scale. Don't get on the scale. Maybe some people say, I need to get on at least once a month or once every couple months. Okay, if that's something that works for you, but if it becomes a compulsive behavior, then that's not working. In fact, because my weight was none of my business, it took care of itself. I love that line. Let me repeat that. My weight was none of my business. It took care of itself. Because your higher power is taking care of your weight. You do the footwork by deciding what you put into your mouth. And your higher power will take it from there. I really honestly believe that. Honestly, 100% believe that. So, when people say, I would rather go to Weight Watchers, if that works for you, that's your call. You may not have a compulsion or have an addiction to certain foods. If that's the case, then that organization might work. Didn't work for me in any capacity. And for my last reading today, I have the desire, because I had the desire to lose weight and become abstinent, because I showed up and I appeared in front of my higher power. I've kept coming back, abstinent or in relapse, because the only thing that has worked for me is this program. I am a, quote, living, unquote, problem. No diet has ever taught me how to cope with life. That's so true for me. No diet whatsoever. It told me how many calories to have and how many points I might have that I could accumulate, but it did not help me with any of my spiritual or psychological issues. The only real thing I can count on is my higher power to see me through whatever today may bring. You can have a great day every day, no matter what conflicts might come your way, if you have your higher power with you. Some days I have to act as if. I must act as if I have the desire to not eat compulsively, and act as if I believe that my higher power is there for me. Sometimes, even with me practicing this program for a number of years, I feel like sometimes my higher power has abandoned me. I know that's not true at all. Not at all. I have abandoned my higher power, but he's never abandoned me. And so I have to convince myself I'm going to act today that my higher power is there for me, and then I normally feel it after so much time. If I take this action, my higher power takes care of my needs, the obsession is lifted, and abstinent comes. So for today, I will not give up. I will just keep trying with my higher power helping me along the way. I will become a much happier person with my life held in my higher power's loving embrace. I will keep trying. I will not give up. Even if you have been abstinent and you have a slip, maybe you have some chips and they are on your not eat list, or you have bread that's been on your no eat list, or something sweet, whatever it would be. That's never, never, never a reason to throw away the whole program. None of us are perfect. Our higher power knows that. So we need to make amends for what we've done. If we've slipped, and we have to be honest, and we have to, as the cliche goes, get back on the horse and keep practicing the one day at a time. I can live without pizza one day at a time. Today, I don't need it. My higher power has taken that desire away from me. I'm much better off without it. I can even be in the presence of people who eat pizza. And I do not feel deprived. Now, that's not always the case. If I'm trying to run the show, then I want that pizza. Then I have to remove myself from that situation instead of giving in, because that is the kiss of death. So, folks, for the spiritual journey, everything will take care of itself if you give it over to your higher power. And he will take care of your weight. He will take care of your keeping you clean. He will take care of keeping your abstinence if you are willing to go through the steps and believe and give your total control to your higher power. It works, folks. It's a miracle. It works. For my segment, Traveled with Mr. B, I've talked about various places that I've gone to. The last place I went to was, in December, was an all-inclusive in Cancun, Mexico. And got to see the Mayan ruins and sit on the beach and enjoy the simple life of luxury of reading a book and just enjoying the pleasure of quiet. This time, I got on a cruise ship. Once again, I'm back on a cruise ship because I love cruise ships. It's like an all-inclusive on water. So, I went with my son who lives in Des Moines, Josh, and his girlfriend Holly, and my brother Jeff who lives in Des Moines. And we left the Des Moines airport and flew into Los Angeles the day before we were supposed to get on the cruise. And so we spent the afternoon and evening in Los Angeles. Didn't really have time to go touring. It would have been fun to have a tour of celebrity homes or go to various places like Chinese theater, Grauman's Chinese Theater, I think it's called. But that just wasn't in the cards this time. So that next day we got transported from our hotel to the Sapphire Princess Cruise. And the check-in went very, very smoothly. We got our rooms, which are the size of a bathroom. But that's all right. Well, you don't spend much time in the room anyway. And that later that day, we took off from Los Angeles on our way to San Diego. And when we arrived in San Diego, my brother and I took a taxi and we went to the San Diego Zoo. Now, San Diego Zoo is an amazing zoo, probably the best I've ever been to. And I've been to a number of zoos. And the last time my brother and I were there, he was 4 years old and I was 10. So it was 56 years ago. We were at the San Diego Zoo. So it was time to go back. And we spent 4 to 5 hours there. Beautiful weather. Saw quite the array of animals in a so-called natural habitat. And just enjoyed each other's company. My brother's highlight was seeing the baboons and the gorillas. Oh yes, he likes both of them. And I would probably have to say my highlight was watching the rhinoceros playing with an empty canister and bouncing that all over the place. And that was really fun. Really, really enjoyable. So we saw just a wide variety of animals at the zoo. And so I do highly recommend the San Diego Zoo. Then we had a day at sea. And when you have a day at sea on a cruise ship, there's so many things you can do. You can watch movies all day. You can sit and read all day. You can eat and just simply perch yourself in the cafeteria if you want to. Not a good idea for me. So I don't do that. You can participate in various activities. They have different games that you can sign up for. They have different art classes you can sign up for. You can go to the spa and get a massage if you want to. You can go to the athletic training center and walk on the treadmill or lift weights, whatever you want to do. It's just lots of different things. Sit in the hot tub, swim, anything that you want to do. So by the time the day is over and then you go to your nightly entertainment in their theater, we had singing. We had a duo that sang. They were very good. There was a magician. There were 2 huge production shows. One that paid tribute to classical music and one that paid tribute to present-day music from the last 20 years or so, with exuberant dancing and singing and costumes and sets. So there's lots of different things you can pick from. They even have a disco that you can go to. They have different bars on the ship that you can go and listen to an acoustic guitar or listen to dueling violins or listen to a pop rock group. Lots of different things all the time that you can do. So then we did that, spent the day on the ship, and then the next day we came into San Francisco. I left my heart in San Francisco. I can't do it without singing that. Sorry, Tony Bennett. Anyway, and San Francisco, unfortunately, we were only there a few hours because with a cruise ship, you come in and then you have to be back on the ship by a certain time or you are left there. And I've seen the videotapes of people chasing the ship when it's pulling out. I don't want to be one of them. So Josh, Holly, and I, we took a tour to a nearby community called Sausalito, and this is a big tourist area. And there we found all these quaint shops, rather expensive shops, that you could go to and spend money. The people who populate Sausalito are overall a much higher income bracket than I am. And then we spent time on the water and looked at all the yachts and the boats and the houseboats. Many people live in houseboats right there in Sausalito. And it was just a beautiful place. But my favorite event of the day was taking our trip from Sausalito to Muir Woods. Muir Woods is the park for the giant redwoods. And it was so spiritual. to see these majestic, towering redwoods in this beautiful park. We did a lot of walking, the three of us. You could cover the park in about an hour. And every redwood had a distinct personality, it seemed to me. And it just reminded me of what I think heaven might look like. I could walk in there every day if I could have the opportunity to do my daily walking in Muir Woods. That's what I would do. It was amazing. Then we went to, the next day, Estonia, Oregon. Estonia. And we did a long bus tour, about 7 hours, around Estonia. And this was in, of course, the Pacific Northwest, and much less populated area than what you would find in San Diego and San Francisco. And we went to a war museum, which was very interesting. We went to a huge creamery, and we saw how they made yogurt there, and ice cream, and cheese, and even got some free samples. And then we learned a lot about the history, about Lewis and Clark and their expedition from our tour guide. And we saw a lot of countryside, and very, very beautiful, but very much less populated than the previous two places we were at. Then we went, finally, into Canada, and we went to Victoria, British Columbia, and we took a tour, Holly, Josh, and I, to two different places. We went to a butterfly garden, which I love butterfly gardens, to have all these different butterflies fly around you, and it also had reptiles in there and exotic birds and lots of talking birds, and it was really beautiful. And then we went to a place called Butchart, Butchart Gardens, which is the most beautiful floral place I have ever been to. If there is a heaven, which I believe there is, this would be what it would look like. It was a huge amount of coverage. You could cover the place in about an hour and a half. They had every imaginable flower, decorative bushes, ponds, waterfalls. It was so spiritual. It was so uplifting. It was so pleasing to the soul. And what made it even more special is that my son decided to propose to Holly in this beautiful land of flowers. And I got to witness it. And I was supposed to take video of it. He told me, we're going to pose here. I want you to videotape this. I had no idea what he was going to do. And then he pulled out the box that had the ring in it and got down on his knees. And I was so shocked and taken back in happiness that I didn't videotape that. I screwed up. Anyway, but I got some pictures and they did put them on Facebook. So after having a lengthy amount of time being together, many years, they are finally, I guess I could say finally, not that it really mattered to me, getting married. But that's all I have for details at this point. Keep you posted there. So Victoria, Canada was a nature land of wonder and beauty. And then finally, we got off the ship in Vancouver and didn't really have a chance to do any sightseeing in Vancouver because we had to leave the ship that morning so they can get ready for the next group of people coming on. And that was our trip. It took 7 days. I did practice abstinence because on a cruise ship, they have many restaurants you could go to. And they also have the buffet. And the buffet has many foods that you normally would not maybe make for yourself at home. But they also have lots and lots of food that, for me, was permissible. Vegetables, salad, meat, oatmeal. I was completely satisfied. And realize, and I've done this before on a cruise ship, realize that you can stay abstinent on a ship. You don't have to give in to that temptation of looking at hundreds of different types of desserts. I just chose not to go to that part of the buffet to look at that. So, anyway, it was an amazing, wonderful trip with family. It was spiritual. It was so exciting to find my son and his girlfriend are getting married. And I'm hoping to cruise again soon. I'd like to cruise at least once a year. Last time I cruised was 1.5 years ago. And so I'll have to see where the cruise ship might take me next time. I don't know at this point, but I'll keep you posted. But it was so great. And they called the Princess the Love Boat. And I guess that really worked for my son and his girlfriend, where he had planned this all along to propose to her. And clever little fellow that he is. So anyway, we had a great trip. I've got another trip coming up at the end of July, and I'll be telling you about that. I hope you can hang on that long.
Let's lend our ears to the wacky observations of the world, according to Scott. Mr. B's wacky, 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 wacky world.
Okay, so I told you how wonderful my cruise was. It was. But even with everything so wonderful, there were a few things that did irritate me. Are you shocked? I bet you're not. I bet you're not. Anyway, I'm just going to mention a few. And I guess you can tell me if you relate to these or not. One would be elevators on a cruise ship. Even though on a cruise ship everybody's in a really great mood, probably largely because all the alcohol being consumed, which doesn't interest me. But being in the elevators is quite a unique experience. Now, if you want to try to get steps in, you take the stairs from level 14, where the buffet is, down to the floor you're staying on, which we were on level 12. Or if you want to go down to the middle of the ship. Or if you want to go from level 7 all the way up to your room on deck 12, then you take the stairs and then you can burn off some of those excess calories. But the elevator is a place where you encounter drunk people, people who feel like they have to make small talk when you really don't need to. And I guess I just found with my advent of middle age, old age, whatever age you want to call it, that I don't really feel like engaging in small talk unless I absolutely have to. I don't see the reason. I've done it for many, many years and I'm tired of it. So I have no problem being in an elevator with one other person or a group of people and not say anything. It's not that I'm better than them. It's not that I don't like them. That's not it. I just don't have anything to say. And then you find people who are purposely trying to engage you in conversation. And if they do, then I will, of course, be courteous and try to reciprocate by talking. But otherwise, I'm okay being quiet. And so, people will be talking about the places they went and what they felt about the food and they'll say, tell me about what you did today and so on and so forth. I don't know. I don't really care for it. I'd rather be in the elevator by myself. But, you can't have everything. No, you just can't. So there's a pet peeve. Am I got any reason to say that there's any way to solve it? No, there isn't. Just have to endure. Just have to live with it. Another one would be gift shops for all the places that you go to. That say that you go to the zoo. You're going to end up, of course, before you leave, in the gift shop. If you go to Muir Woods before you leave the place, you're going to have to go through the gift shop. And I understand that people want to have a relic, t-shirt, whatever it would be, to commemorate their visit. But I find so many times that it was very easy to be compulsive there and buy all of this, may I say, crap that you're never going to pay any attention to when you get home, but you're caught up in the moment and you need to have 10 souvenirs from Muir Woods to remember your experience. I don't think so. And I don't do that. I just don't do it anymore. I might buy a magnet for my refrigerator, or I might buy a shot glass to put on a shelf that I never dust, or I might get a t-shirt. But that's really about it. I'm not going to spend my money on all of these overpriced items, because the best way that I can remember the trip is in my mind, or pictures that I can take on my phone. So there you go. Let's see. Any other pet peeves? Oh, yes. On the cruise ship, people standing in the middle of the hallways. Your hallways are very, very tight where you're staying. And sometimes people just stand right in the middle and you can't get around them because there's no room. And instead of pushing them, you just need to try to be courteous and say, please excuse me. Sometimes they hear you, sometimes they don't. And I know that I might be guilty of this too, but you want to try to not stand in the middle of the hallway. Go somewhere else. Go out by the elevators, go to your room, go out on deck, whatever. Or, better yet, get a room with a deck, balcony, and sit on your balcony. So there you go. There you go. That would probably take care of my pet peeves for travel. Otherwise, why would I go traveling if I was going to experience a lot of pet peeves? That seems to not make any sense. So most of the time, I completely go with the flow and find it enjoyable. And I highly encourage you to find the time. I tell people how wonderful cruising is. And I know it's not for everybody. Some people don't like to feel the ship move, and you rarely feel that. But once in a while you do, especially at night when you're sleeping. Or they don't feel comfortable being on a ship or they can't see any land whatsoever. I respect that. That doesn't bother me. So you just have to decide what is the best vacation spot for you. But that, my folks, is my quick travelogue of my latest excursion. So I hope again to be on the Love Boat in the coming year.
And now, School Days with Mr. B.
Folks, for my views about education, I've talked about a number of different things from my years as a teacher and now as a substitute. But I'm going to talk a little bit about the value of public education. Now, I want to preface this by saying I am not against private schooling. If people want to pay that extra money for that, if they feel that they get a better education there, that's fine. That's their prerogative. I taught in a public school for 39 years, and I would never have changed that because I find the benefits of public education far-reaching and very vital. And I hope that the state of Iowa will continue to have an interest in public education. One of the reasons that I really endorse public education is that usually there is more diversity and abundance of extracurricular activities because you've got many times a bigger group of students, and you have more teachers, and you can have maybe much more diversity when it comes to sports or fine arts because maybe you have more funding. So that would be a reason that I endorse public schools. My major reason for public schools is that they focus more on social and economic diversity. There's so much diversity, so many different levels of income of people in a public school that it gives a student and teachers a great look at different perspectives, which makes you a much more rounded person. And you don't necessarily, again, this is simply my opinion, get that experience so much in a private institution. So in a public school system, you have much more diversity of races, of creeds, of religions, sexual orientation, whatever it would be. And I think those are building blocks to major success in being a person who's well-rounded and accepting of all people around him or her as they go throughout their life. So that's another major reason that I would prefer the public school over the private school. So, also to keep in mind that with a public school, normally, and again, I'm looking at this from a perspective of a teacher, is that most states have a retirement program built into it for the teacher. So for Iowa, it's the IPERS program, and for my involvement in public schooling for 39 years, I was able to retire at an earlier age than most people because I had my pension that I could rely on, which I will have until the day I die. And so that is equivalent to the amount of money that I was making when I left teaching full time. And so that's a huge benefit of being in the public school system. But people have to decide for themselves what they want, where they want to send their children. I'm never going to dictate to anybody to tell them what to do, whether it be a private institution or homeschooling or public. You have to find for yourself what works. And my heart will always be, though, in the public school system.
Don't you forget this.
For the next course, come one, come all. Nothing spoiled here. From comfort classics to what's hot now. film reviews from Mr. B's Rewatchables.
Oh, my happy friends, for my rewatchables this week, I'm not going to do any television program. I'm going to focus on 3 movies that I watched while I was on the ship. Now, one of the benefits of cruising is that you can have lots of entertainment in your room. They have a variety of TV shows you can watch and documentaries and lots of films, recent films, classic films, and I surely had ample time to watch some of these great movies, and I chose 3 that I'm going to talk a little bit about, and I hope that you'll see them, or if you haven't already, maybe to rewatch them. 2 of these I've seen more than once, and you might want to take the time to check it out on a streaming service or a cable channel, or go to maybe even, if it comes back to the theater, in the theater. So anyway, the first one I'm going to mention, not necessarily in any order, is a film that came out at Christmas time called Nosferatu. And it's an American Gothic horror film written and directed by one of my favorite directors, Robert Eggers, who also directed The Witch and some other great films. I love his style. It was a huge hit at the box office, and it's basically a vampire film. It's a horror film, but also a love story. And just to give you a little bit of the plot, it takes place in the early 1800s, and there's a young girl named Ellen who is pleading for a supernatural being to ease her loneliness. And her cries awaken this mysterious creature who makes this pledge that he will come and seduce her. And so therein you have the story of Nosferatu, who comes from Germany and buys property in England, I believe, and seduces her, and unfortunately, I'm not going to tell you the ending, but it doesn't end happily. But the Count's name is Count Orlok, who is a vampire, and Bill Skarsgård portrays the vampire, and there's been a silent film version of Nosferatu, and a film that came out, I believe, in the 70s. And the Nosferatu character is very tall, very thin, and has a bushy mustache, very similar to what men had at that time. And he, of course, drinks the bloods of humans. Now, he doesn't have fangs. He simply bites the chest of the person and consumes the blood from the chest. The story involves how he's coming to meet Ellen and seduce her, and to the dismay of her fiance and all the people around her. And without any more detail about the film, it is probably one of the most gorgeous films I've ever watched. Now, it's a little slow at times. I've talked to many people who think that it's rather slow and boring. But the cinematography is so wonderful. That's one of the trademarks of Robert Eggers as a director. It's visually stunning to watch. And that alone would be a major reason why you might want to see Nosferatu. And Nosferatu, of course, meaning vampire, is a great story of this woman trying to struggle with what she needs to do to make herself happy. And how is she going to become free of the clutches of this evil presence that's making his way to her. Some people say the film is very similar to the Dracula story, but in many ways it is very different. Very, very different from the traditional Dracula story. And I really suggest that you see it. And it's not for young children. It's not excessively gory, but you don't, for example, you don't really even see the Count until about halfway through the film. You see him in shadows, you see images of him, but you never really get to see what he looks like. The director keeps you in suspense. And there's so many great actors in this film. I would suggest, if you're looking for something darker, to check out Nosferatu. Next on my list of suggestions is Conclave, which is very important right now because we just had a new pope elected, and we were witnessing on television the conclave of priests coming together and deciding who is going to be the next pope. And this film was a great political thriller for me, and it's based on a novel from 2016, and it stars Ralph Fiennes, Stanley Tucci, John Lithgow, and Isabella Rossellini. And in this film, Cardinal Thomas Lawrence, played by Fiennes, organizes a conclave to elect the next pope, and finds himself investigating secrets and scandals about the major candidates. And again, I'm not saying this is what goes on behind closed doors in the Sistine Chapel when all of these priests get together, secluded from the world, to choose the next pope. But it was a very engrossing story. It did incredibly well at the box office, and Isabella Rossellini was nominated for Best Supporting Actress. And I guess my major reason I suggest Conclave is that you get to find out that even priests, Catholic priests, or any of us, are far from perfect. And when you think of the Pope, you think of the entity of a person who is perfect, but that is not true. Human beings are not and never will be. And so you've got people who, priests who want to be the next pope and have done some negative things to try to earn the votes of some of the other priests. And the ending will knock you out. When the Pope is selected, I didn't see this coming. I've never read the book, but my goodness, was I surprised about the background of the newly elected Pope. And what does that say? And I'm not going to give anything away, but what does that say about accepting of all types of people and realizing that we all have flaws, but it doesn't mean that we're not good people.
Certainty. Certainty is the great enemy of unity. Certainty is the deadly enemy of tolerance. Even Christ was not certain at the end. Dio mio, perché mi hai abbandonato? He cried out in his agony at the 9th hour on the cross. Our faith is a living thing precisely because it walks hand in hand with doubt. If there was only certainty and no doubt, there would be no mystery, and therefore no need for faith. Let us pray that God will grant us a pope who doubts, and let him grant us a pope who sins and asks for forgiveness and who carries on.
So I guess what I'm saying with all that gobbledygook is that Conclave is an engrossing story about human beings who have drawbacks, trying to aspire to being the head of the Catholic Church. And again, as I said, whether this is representative of what could normally happen in a conclave, I have absolutely no idea, nor will I ever. But it made for a very, very great story. And I don't think it necessarily tried to paint the Catholic religion in any kind of negative way. I think it was just straightforward and interesting. And so, put Conclave on your list of must-sees. Now, I'm going to recommend a film that I've seen numerous times, and I like it every time that I watch it. And that is called 12 Years a Slave. 12 Years a Slave is a 2013 biographical historical drama based on the 1853 slave memoirs of a man who was sold into slavery when he already had earned his freedom. And it's a story of how he tries and finally is successful in getting back his freedom. He was sold into slavery in a very, very unjust way. And when the film first came out, it received great critical acclaim, and many media outlets and critics named it the best film of 2013. And it received 9 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Supporting Actress. And the director was the first Black British producer to ever receive the award. And so, the story is about Solomon Northup, who was a free American man in 1841, who's a violinist and lives with his wife and children in New York. 2 white men, Brown and Hamilton, offer him short-term employment as a musician in Washington, but instead they drug him and deliver him to the South to owner of a slave plantation. And this was something that happened to black people in the North during this time. Northup proclaims his freedom, but he's violently beaten and tortured. He's shipped to New Orleans with other slaves and works on a plantation where he is beaten and treated very, very unjustly. And so the story is really about how he's finding a way to get word to somebody in the North that he has been taken by force to be a slave in the South. And he meets some people along the way who say that will help him, but then they do not follow through with that. But he finally does meet one man who, portrayed by Brad Pitt, a man who's come to build a structure on the plantation, that he says he will now take information and talk to the authorities in the North, and they would come down to rescue him. And I can tell you enough to say that this does have a happy ending, that he does have his freedom restored.
On your life, you answer me truthfully. Have you any other name than Platt?
Solomon Northup is my name.
Sheriff, what's all this?
It's official business.
My nigga, my business.
Your business waits. Tell me of your family.
Platt.
I have a wife, 2 children.
What the hell?
What are your children's names?
Margaret and Alonzo.
What was your wife's name before her marriage?
Ann Hampton, I am who I say.
Where you going, Platt? You will unhand him, Platt. That is my nigga.
He is Mr. Solomon North.
You say you come here unfamiliar to me and make claims.
No doubt, the man is Solomon North.
The hell he is. He's my nigga, and I'll fight you for it.
As is your right. As it will be my pleasure to bankrupt you in the courts. Your decision. Unhand him.
I know you had some hand in this plan. I'm gonna get to the bottom of it.
Pay him no mind.
I paid good money for this nigga. Courthouse got papers to prove it.
And we got papers proving he's free.
I own you. You belong to me. You hear me?
Unhand him.
I have 200 shots across your back by sundown.
It's a visually difficult film to watch, to see how life was on a plantation with the beating and the not feeding the slaves well, and the verbal abuse and sexual liberties that the plantation owners would take with the slaves, and how people can't be owned. It just can't be done. Slavery was a hideous, dark blotch on our American history. And this just reiterates how horrible people can be to each other. And so I would suggest that you see 12 Years a Slave and witness the horrific story of this free man who is sold into slavery. And if it hadn't been for a white man, would never probably had gotten off the plantation and been reunited with his family. So 12 Years a Slave. Finally, friends, I'm going to recommend the film called Companion. And the film Companion is a small film that came out in 2025, at the beginning of the year, and wasn't in the theaters very long. But I remember when it came out, listening to a movie review podcast, they were reviewing it, and they were very, very impressed with the film. And so I thought, I'm going to watch this. And I was very, very entertained by this film. It's a science fiction thriller with the stars Sophie Thatcher and Jack Quaid, who star as a couple on a weekend getaway with friends at a remote cabin, which unfortunately unravels into chaos after revelation that one of the guests is a robot. And it received many positive reviews from critics. And the basic story is that a young woman named Iris remembers meeting her boyfriend Josh for the first time. Then they travel to a lake house to meet friends who own this house. The next day, a man there tries to sexually assault Iris at the lake, and Iris kills him in self-defense. She returns to the house attempting to explain what happened, and Josh tells her suddenly, Iris, go to sleep. And you realize at that moment that this beautiful, beautiful woman is a robot. And make a long story short, in this story, you could buy companions from this company. They looked human. They talked. You could program them any way you wanted to. And they would be completely 100% devoted to you. So, did Iris really meet her boyfriend where she thinks she did in a grocery store? No, she did not. That memory was planted in her. So, Jack, or I should say Josh, informs her that she's the companion robot.
You're okay. I'm here. Hey, look at me.
Go away. Why are my hands tied? Why are my hands tied?
We didn't have a choice. You murdered Sergei. You remember?
No. It was self-defense. He was going to kill me. You got to believe me.
No, I believe you, Iris. I mean, you couldn't lie to me even if you wanted to. It's part of your programming.
Programming? What the hell are you talking about?
Okay, sorry, there's just no delicate way to say this, so I'm just gonna rip the Band-Aid right off. You're a robot. A robot. More specifically, you're a companion robot.
While Josh is distracted, she breaks free, steals his phone, and flees into a nearby forest, where she can boost her intelligence from 40% to 100% using his cell phone. His cell phone can program her to speak any language, dictate what kind of emotion she's going to have. She has no control over any of that. Anyway, we find out that Josh and his friends have stolen or want to get all of this money from the guy that Iris has killed. And this is all a diabolical plan to get this money. And what takes place then after this is that everybody unfortunately dies, except for Iris, the robot. And she even unfortunately kills Josh, the one that she'd been a companion with for a long time. But you realize that the robot actually had more human emotions than the humans in this film. And I think that's part of the theme of the movie. There's a lot of themes in this film of control, owning the robot, having him do whatever you want. It also talked about technological dependency. It explores relationships. The protagonist, Iris, believes she's human, but when she discovers she's a companion robot controlled by an app, the film shifts into horror about identity and free will. And so I walked away from this film being very, very surprised about how entertaining it was. It was highly engrossing. I was very, very much involved in this story. So it was really a great experience in what's a robot, what is human. Are humans sometimes acting like robots? And do sometimes robots, if this existed, which we don't have the technology right now at this point. Film is assuming that you could have a companion robot, that the technology existed. Did they have more human qualities than the humans? And so if you want a film that explores all of this, I really recommend you see the film called Companion. There you have it, my friends. A rundown of my trip, a little journey down the spiritual path, my viewpoints about public-private education, some of my pet peeves, and some of my films I experienced while I was at sea. So, with that potpourri, I say to you, my friends, I hope you'll come back for the next episode, because I always got more to say about something. You never need to be worried about that. So until we meet again, thanks for joining me at the dinner table. I hope that you'll clean your spot and put the dishes into the dishwasher. I really don't want to have to do that. Until we meet again, have a good one.
Television dramas and comedic reviews, pet peeves buzzing like honeydew blues, poetry sprinkled like salt on a dish, every word served with a twist and a swish. Belly up to the table, my friend. The feast of thought will never end, from travels far to a spiritual climb. Morsels of musing served in rhyme.
Mr. B's Dinner Party is hosted by Scott Bertelson, edited and produced by Troy Thompson, recorded and distributed at Sunnyside Farm Studios, and platformed by Buzzsprout.
Conversations flowing like fine red wine, world journeys mapped with tales divine. He's hosting a dinner for your hungry mind, a banquet of life where you can unwind. Belly up to the table, my friend. The feast of thought will never end. From travels far to a spiritual climb, morsels of musings served in rhyme.
Subscribe so you never miss an episode and share with your friends. Listen and enjoy every other Wednesday. Conversational Morsels for the Mind on Mr. B's Dinner Party.